Hi, I'm Elisa Rualcaba. Welcome to the History Unpacked, where we take a closer look at the events that shaped our world. I'm your host for tonight, Elise Rualcaba, and today we're going to dive into the chaos, courage, and consequences of one of the most transformative conflicts in the human history, including World War I. In the early 20th century, Europe is a continent bristling with nationalism, imperial rivalries, and military alliance. Countries like Britain, Germany, France, Austria-Hungary, and Russia are locked in a tense power that struggled building up armies and stockpiling weapons. Then on June 28, 1914, a single event lights the fuse. Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary is assassinated in the Sarajevo by Serbian nationalism. I say it was meant to be a local statement, but instead it set off a chain reaction. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Russia. Serbia's ally mobilized Germany declared war on Russia. France joined in, but Germany invaded Belgium, and then that's what brought Britain into the fight. Within weeks later, the world's major powers were at war. This wasn't just a European conflict. It soon reached Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. And so began what people at the time called the Great War. World War I lasted from 1914 to 1918 and involved more than 30 countries. It was unlike any war the world had seen before. The industrial age brought within the new weapons, machine guns, poison gas, tanks, and aircraft. But the strategy hadn't caught up with the technology. On the Western Front, from the North Sea to the Swiss border, the trench warfare dominated. Then the soldiers lived and died in long, muddy trenches, facing constant shell fire, disease, and the physiological toll of endless bombardment. Progress was measured in yards, then thousands and thousands would die to gain a few feet off ground, only to lose again the next day. The Eastern Front was more fluid, stretching over vast Russian territory. Here, mobility played a bigger role, but the human cost was just as strategy. Russia suffered massive defeats and internal strifes, and in 1917, revolution overthrew the Tsar. The Bolsheviks took power and pulled Russia out the war. Meanwhile, new fronts opened in the Middle East, Africa, and the Pacific. Colonial troops fought for the European war into a truly World War conflict. Then came 1917, a turning point to them. The United States, after years and years of trying to stay neutral, they entered the war. Several factors pushed them: unrestricted submarine warfare by Germany, then the infamous Zimmerman telegram, and attacks on America's stripes with fresh troops and resources. The Allies began to push back. By 1918, Germany was running out of men, food, and morale. The Allies launched a massive counter-offense facing revolution at home and collapse on the front lines. Germany agreed to an armistice. November 11, 1918, the guns fell silent. The war had killed over 16 million people, soldiers and civilians alike, and wounded many millions more. It redrew maps, toppled empires, and planted seeds of future conflict. The Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, Russian, and German empires all crumbled. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, imposed harsh penalties on Germany. Territory loses military and restrictions and massive reparations. But rather than ensure peace, the treaty stalked recent is often that the World War didn't end war. It just fused for the World War II and beyond. World War I left scars on the human spirit. It charged literature, art, and philosophy. The term lost generation was coined to describe it. Was reshaped technology and medicine with advances born on necessity, blood transfusions, reconstructive surgery, even the first widespread use of x-rays. Thanks, and that is all that I have to tell you guys about the World War I, and this will be the podcast. So thanks for joining me today on the History Unpacked. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, don't forget, subscribe and share. Bye.
Welcome to History Unpacked, where we bring the past to life in just 10 minutes. I'm Kyla. Let's go back to June 28, 1914, in Sarajevo. The heir to Austro-Hungarian throne, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, is assassinated by Gavril Princip, a Bosnian Serb nationalist. This single event lit the fuse on a powder keg of alliances, rivalries, and military plans that have been building for decades. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia. Backed by Germany, they declared war. Russia, allied with Serbia, mobilized. Germany declared war on Russia and then on France. When German troops violated Belgium's neutrality to attack France, Britain entered war. Within weeks, much of Europe was at war. This wasn't a Europe conflict. Colonies and dominions were pulled in Canada, Australia, India, and others. Eventually, even far-off powers like Japan and the United States joined. By 1918, it was truly a world war. The Western Front became infamous for trench warfare. Picture this: endless mud, barbed wire, and cold soldiers huddled in trenches facing enemy lines just a few yards away. Between them, no man's land. A deadly stench where many met their end. Battles like Somme and Verdun turned into grinding slaughters with millions killed for just a few miles of land. Meanwhile, the Eastern Front was more mobile but no less brutal. Russia fought Germany and Austria-Hungary, but struggled with poor infrastructure leadership. Eventually, in 1917, the Russian Revolution toppled the Tsar. The new Bolshevik government signed a peace treaty with Germany, pulling Russia out of the war. That same year, the United States entered the conflict. German submarines had sunk American ships and What the fuck, bro? The same year the United States entered the conflict, German submarines had sunk American ships, and a secret message, the Zimmermann telegram, promised U.S. territory to Mexico if they joined Germany. These events pushed the U.S. to declare war. American troops brought fresh energy to the exhausted Allied forces. By 1918, Germany was in retreat. On November 11, 1918, at 11 a.m., an armistice was signed. The guns finally fell silent. But peace wouldn't come easily. In 1919, the Treaty of Versailles formally ended war. Germany was blamed, stripped of territory, and forced to pay reparations. Many historians believe the harsh terms of this treaty planted the seeds for World War II. The cost of World War I was staggering: over 16 million dead, 20 million wounded. Entire empires, the Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, Russian, and Germany, collapsed. New nations emerged, including including Poland and Yugoslavia. The map of Europe was redrawn. But beyond the numbers were the psychological scars. The war shattered illusions of glory and heroism. It gave rise to disillusionment, modernist art and literature reflecting the chaos. Shell shock. What we now understand as PTSD haunted a generation of soldiers. So why does World War I matter today? It was the beginning of modern warfare, machine guns, tanks, aircraft, chemical weapons. It showed how industrial power could be turned into mass destruction, and it taught the world a painful lesson about the cost of entangled alliances, unchecked nationalism. That's it for today's episode. World War I was supposed to be the world war to end all wars, but as we know, it wasn't. Still, understanding its causes and consequences helps us understand the world we live in today. Thanks for listening to History Unpacked. If you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing and sharing with a fellow history lover. Until next time, keep asking questions and keep looking back.
And I'm Malik. Today we're talking about one of the most devastating and transformative events in modern history, World War I. That's right, also known as the Great War. World War I lasted from 1914 to 1918 and involved more than 30 different nations. So let's break it down. What started it all? So the immediate spark was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, I don't know how to say it, of Austria-Hungary in Sarajevo on June 29th, 1914. But the roots go deeper, way deeper. Europe was a powder keg of nationalism, militarism, imperialism, and tangled alliances. Once Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, a chain reaction kicked off. Yeah, it was like a row of dominoes, really. Russia mobilized to defend Siberia? Not sure. But Germany did declare war on Russia. It's over. It won't let me. When Germany invaded Belgium to get to France, Britain joined too. Exactly where?
Look, I know you're not recording, right?
I am.
Not time to record. That time has been over with.
Okay.
And it's been over 5 minutes anyway, so you should work on notes.
Got it.